for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm live in the Forecast Center, and we are following Hurricane Bonnie as it gets closer and closer to making landfall on the North Carolina coast. You were looking at pictures from Morehead City, and we are going to be going back there with live reports in just a little while. I'm joined now by our hurricane expert, John Hope. John, we are looking at a landfall very, very soon.
It's very soon. Not there yet, though. We just have a recent report from the aircraft and look at the radar. The center of the eye is still a little ways offshore. And oddly enough, just in the last hour or two, it appears to be getting a little bit better organized. In fact, the pressure's dropped down to 960 millibars from 966 a few hours ago. That's the first significant drop in pressure we've had in the last couple of days.
Now explain to folks what that means when you see a drop in pressure.
It might mean it's getting a little better organized, but it's so close to land, Janetta, that we think the eye of the storm hurricane is going to be ashore before it can do very much. That's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, very good news. As we look at the radar, we can see that the eye is still just offshore, but we are seeing the bands of showers and thunder showers moving onshore. A lot of folks are experiencing already some strong winds and some heavy rainfall. We do have flood warnings in effect for the Wilmington metro area. We've even had reports of big-time flooding on Bayshore Drive in the Ogden area. As a matter of fact, water was up to the windows on cars in that particular region. Some spotters have reported as much as 5+ inches of rain. So a serious situation with the flooding. Looking at the satellite vantage point, you can still see the eye. It is a rather large eye.
Yes, it is. Actually, it's tightened up a little bit. They gave, the aircraft gave 17-mile diameter circular eye, which is the first time we've seen that also in a couple days.
Okay. As we continue to monitor the situation with Hurricane Bonnie, we want to remind folks it is a strong hurricane, a major hurricane, 115-mile-per-hour winds.
It is a major hurricane. We haven't seen that much wind on land. I don't think we will see quite 115 sustained. We may see that much in gusts. The stronger winds, as always on a hurricane that close to the coast, are more likely to be just offshore than they are inland. But nevertheless, gusts well in excess of hurricane force inland, enough to do damage.
We've already had reports of trees down and power lines down all along the coast. We're going to try and go to a live crew right now. I believe Bill Keneally is standing by in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Bill has been bearing the brunt of this action over the last 5-6 hours or so. Bill, it's looking pretty rough out there.
Janetta, the coast is continuing to get strafed by the hurricane. Hurricane Bonnie, I'm going to take a guess, is due east of me right now. We never got into the eye. We're surely in the eye wall. What we're going to look for now is for that northeast wind, which has been just unrelenting all day long, to begin to back around more to the north and eventually around to the northwest, but that is not going to allow us to let our guard down, as it looks as though winds will still be very gusty, probably in excess of hurricane force for several more hours. We shot some video a couple hours ago in the area. Locally on the mainland side of Wrightsville Beach, you can see the trees down and a lot of water, and once again the rain was just incredible. And at the peak, I'm going to guess that the winds topped out in this location at about 90 miles per hour. This is not the barrier island. One would surmise winds over there on the barrier island probably in excess of 100 miles per hour. Hopefully, John Hope and Janetta, the worst is over with here.
Region. That was Bill Keneally reporting live from Wrightsville Beach in North Carolina. Once again, I'm joined by hurricane expert John Hope. John, let's go over some of the latest statistics on Hurricane Bonnie. We've already talked about the winds up to 115 miles per hour. The pressure has dropped.
Yeah, and it's 40 miles still south of Wilmington, and the pressure dropped down to 960 millibars. As I indicated, that's a pretty good drop, and I'm glad the storm is that close to land. But having said that, it's not moving very rapidly, and this is going to prolong the agony, so to speak, for a lot of folks, I'm afraid.
The official forecast?
The official forecast calls for it to continue to move north and to turn a little bit toward the northeast tonight. Now, I want to point out that we haven't seen any sign of any beginning of that movement toward the northeast. It's still moving almost straight toward the north, not northeast at all yet.
Okay. Do want to make mention that the hurricane watches and warnings still up, where you see the red shading here, and as we look at the satellite vantage point, a very large hurricane. It is going to affect a big portion of North Carolina, South Carolina, and even into Virginia and the Tidewater region.
Yep, it's moving up that way very, very slowly, and eventually the adverse weather will be getting up to Virginia. They're a little north of most of it now, but they are going to begin, they are getting some pretty good onshore winds. They're going to increase and that's going to increase the tidal flooding in that area.
Okay. We have a couple of more reports that we want to tell you about right now. Our own Jim Cantori is standing by in Morehead City. Jim, can you tell us how things have changed?
Well, again, Janetta, we're in and out of the rain, but the wind remains strong, 60 to 65 mile per hour gusts. Look behind me here. You can see what it's done to Bosque Bay, or excuse me, Bogue Sound, excuse me, and you can see how these winds are just chopping up the bay. Now, what we have seen is the water's come in a little bit, and that's not so much representative of the tide, but simply because of the fact that the air motion has gone from northeast around to east and now off to the east-southeast. And I'm afraid, especially as John talks about that pressure dropping to 960, that those eastern bands of the hurricane are going to remain extremely strong. So as they come in, especially for a south-facing barrier island, much like the Crystal Coast is here and here back in the mainland, we may have some big problems as we get into tonight, possibly as late as a high tide, which is around midnight here. Let me show you our tower cam shot off the live truck, and we are looking off toward the west, and you can see how the winds are allowing the trees to sway. Now, we aren't having the winds that Bill had, that's for sure, with 90-mile-an-hour gusts, but we have had power outages, and we've lost power here where we are at this point, as well as cable. So no doubt the worst could still be yet to come with those eastern bands remaining strong over the western Atlantic. Back to you.